All right, welcome. So in this video, we're really going to talk about how can you build an organizer to help you plan out your writing so you'll be able to deliver and support your thesis as clearly as possible. So you did all this work with the thesis. It's really hard. You started with an idea and that sounded fun, but then you had to dig through a whole bunch of evidence. You had to write, revise, think, tweak, but in the end, you came out with a clear opinion that you can feel comfortable with. But the work that you just did, nobody else did that. You're the only one who swam through the river, so you're the only one who's come out on the other side and, planted the thesis flag. But as a writer, you want to communicate what you've learned to other people. So now you can't just tell them the end result. You have to, just like you had to go on a path of learning, you have to give people that proper path to learn as well. So imagine that's you over there looking mighty fierce on thesis land. Um, there's a strange group on the other side that wants to get where you are, but here's the deal, you want them there too, because you've learned something and you want other people to understand it as well. So what you need to do, you can't just pick them up. They can't magically transport over there, even though you seem kind of magical. You need to give a path for people to sort of logically understand step by step the way to end up at your opinion. So we're going to call those the key points. So you need your reader to trust you. You need to build a path that they can follow. That's how they will trust you. So you're going to build a logical argument using key points. Each key point should support the thesis. Creating an organizer will help you create that logic map. Creating an organizer will help you use your evidence strategically. So your organizer, you're going to think about how can I build logical steps to my thesis. So lay out the key ideas the reader needs to know point by point. You're telling a story with your points. So there's a lot of methods out there that you can use if it fits the type of argument that you're doing. But one is called the Rogerian method. So notice you're trying to persuade somebody. So you start by addressing a problem that you see out there. The next step is to look at the opposing view. And then notice you get into the opposition. You validate the opposing view. So the reason you would start out with an opposing view is if you say, hey, I understand where you're coming from, then the other side is going to feel heard, and then they're more likely to listen, which is the next step of your position. And then you validate your position with evidence. And then at the end, you say, and here's why my plan is good, the benefits. So notice the last thing, the thing that's going to stick in somebody's head that they hear is your benefits. So notice this is just a thoughtful plan. It takes the reader step by step through the logical argument. So you could use this if this plan fits with the type of writing that you're doing, you can use it. But every essay is going to be different. So you're going to have to create your own plan, and that's what the organizer is for. That being said, there are some skills and strategies that are going to be really helpful. One, and I bring this up because I see students confusing key points and evidence all the time. Make sure that you're using key points to support your ideas, not just evidence. Define key terms. That adds clarity so everybody's on the same page. And then build trust with your reader. Show that you're an expert, show that you know what you're talking about. And then also acknowledge potential counterclaims and then refute them. That is the key point, refuting them. So one mistake you want to avoid is don't get evidence confused with being a key point. So I see this a lot. Students will find evidence and maybe they'll go to the Canada Goose website and they'll see how expensive their coats are. And maybe the point they're trying to support is that fashion can be overpriced. And then the point of their essay, or sorry, the point of their paragraph might be something like, oh, this Windermere coat cost $1,000. That's not the point of a paragraph. That's just evidence. What you'd want to say is Canada Goose jackets are incredibly expensive. Then you might use the Windermere coat for being $1,000 as evidence. So just understand if it's a specific bit of information that's evidence. That can't be your point. You also want to define key terms. Any words that are in your thesis that could be interpreted in more than one way should be defined. That way you and your reader are on the same page. So if your thesis was basketball players are the best athletes of any professional sports, people have different conceptions of what makes an athlete. So your first paragraph should define, this is what I mean when I say great athlete. Then you and the reader are on the same page, and then you can explain the rest of your argument. You do want to build trust with your reader. So how do they know they should listen to you? That's where your research is really, really important. The more research you pull in, the more official you sound. Because you're not just some crazy person telling them what to do. You're a crazy person, but you're using other people's ideas that are sound ideas. So you're proving that you're not crazy. Um, Citing your sources is important. So if you cite sources that people know and trust, they are then going to trust you in your opinions. Properly contextualize your sources. So for instance, let's say you're citing a person and people know that they have a bias. If you say, you know, this person, here's a quote from them, I know they have a bias, but people will, it'll diffuse them. They'll be, oh, okay, this person knows what they're talking about because they're at least admitting they're not trying to hide. And then if you have personal experience, I don't know, maybe you want to talk about dance. You could say, hey, I've been dancing for the last 10 years of my life. That kind of gives you an expertise in the topic, so it's worth bringing up. Do acknowledge counterclaims and address them. So a counterclaim is when somebody would have a different opinion than you. So just bring that up. It can make the opposing side feel heard, and then they'll be likely to listen. It also builds trust because it shows that you understand both sides of the issue. Now, what do you do with that? You don't want to just start talking about the counterclaims because then you'd be supporting the opposite of your thesis. So if the counterclaim is one that you think is wrong, mention it, but then take it down. If the opposing claim is a good one, but it's not strong enough to change your opinion, then admit, hey, this is a good idea, I get it, but then explain why it's not enough to change. So here's an example. Some people may believe that texting while driving with hands-free devices is the answer to a ban on texting. So you can see this is the counterclaim. And however, notice the transition word showing contrast. It has been proven that it is not the actual process of texting. So notice they bring up what other people say. So this person feels heard. Oh yes, that's what I think. But then you immediately refute it or take it down. So if you put it all together, maybe your thesis is school should start later so that students can get enough sleep. So, you might start with a hook, build trust with your reader. Say, hey, I'm a student right now. I can tell you what I see in the hallway. So if you're saying students should get enough sleep, well, maybe what is enough sleep? So you might want to say, here's what enough sleep is. You might also have to prove that this is a problem. So start defining the problem. Here's school start times from around the country. Now you can get into this. So you're trying to support that schools would be better off. Well, prove it. Give me maybe that students are more alert. That would help schools. You'll have better behavior. That will help schools. Look at a counterclaim. Some people say, well, if you do that, sports will be messed up. So, just say, I get it. It might affect sports, but here, sports should not come first. I spelled that one wrong. And then get back into, students beyond that, students would perform better on tests. That's going to help schools. Now, here's the deal. If you're saying students should start later, you're kind of implying that you have a solution. So you might want to finish with that. The right time for students to wake up is, and then explain yourself. So really, and honestly, I put this together quickly. If I was to do it, I might change some of these around. So this is what I mean. If you create an organizer, you're taking your reader kind of through a story, through a logical process, and then it helps you as the writer figure out what exactly are you saying and why you're saying it. So in summary, avoid, putting any evidence out there that's sort of and masquerading it as a key point. You don't want your person to step on a stick and all of a sudden it just falls in. Put those stones, build trust, define key terms, acknowledge and refute opposing views. If you do all those things, you'll be in pretty good shape and you'll have supported your thesis. Hopefully this is helpful helping you build an organizer. Have a great day.